Hello everyone and welcome back to the Garibaldi Red podcast, a Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm Max Hayes, your host, and as Forest close the season with a Chris Wood brace at Burnley, it means the Reds will, of course, play Premier League football next season again after what has been a stressful up and down one for the club. Joining me to discuss all of this, the season as a whole, and reports this morning on Nuno's future, never a dull day, is it? Is first of all, former Reds midfielder and the main man, legend. Good to see him back on the podcast, Guy Moussi. Guy, how are you?
I'm great. Nice to see you all, guys. Happy we in Premier League still next season, so all good.
Yes, exactly. We are very, very happy. Also joining us, Forest fan and from the Tricky T-shirt business in Nottingham, Sam Evans. Sam, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. All positive. I'm very happy end to the season. So yeah, all smiles and no negative chat today. Just all positive.
You bring the positivity every week, Sam. Can always rely on you. Also, maybe joining us in a bit, maybe Mark Turner, who has an early start in America. It's 6 hours time difference, so it's 5 a.m. there. So hopefully he wakes up soon and he'll be joining us for a few thoughts throughout. Sam, let's start with you because I think you caught most of the game yesterday, and then we'll kind of branch out from there. It was a party atmosphere inside Turf Moor yesterday, and I got back yesterday. I felt like I needed to lie down, but it just reminded me of Palace last season. Forest end the season on a high, and it just felt like almost relief in a way. And you could almost sense the players were playing with a little bit of just less pressure off them, really, couldn't you?
Yeah, it's funny that I think we've probably played better than that away and come away without results this season. But I think that's what we've been asking the players to do, is go to tough places like Turf Moor and grind out results. And that's what they did. They were clinical, took the chances, and could have had a few more as well. So yeah, I mean, as an away day to end the season, you can't really ask for much more than that party atmosphere, like you say. And I think I've still got some of the songs stuck in my head. So and I'm going to have them stuck in my head all summer, I think. So.
Yes, exactly. Did you know there is some good ones, especially the Murillo one? It's very, very good chant. And there's some of them. It seems like there's one for Toffolo now, and it's kind of all coming out these new chants. Guy, you kind of caught a lot of the highlights yesterday. What did you make of it, and what have you made to Forest in a way? Because it has been a bit of a up and down season, to say the least.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you say, Sam, because it feels like they were released. They were like freedom to play with no pressure. But it's not the easy game to play, because when you play in Burnley, that already relegate, they play at home the last game. The last thing that you want to do is play under pressure, because there is no pressure. You will be in Championship next season. And in top of that, you want to show that, okay, I will be playing with freedom. And I was a little bit concerned, not worried, but concerned about how we're going to handle this match. And I think we're doing really, really well,
Yeah, it's interesting to say that, Guy. I mean, what have you made to the season overall? Forest changed managers halfway through. Nuno comes in. Kind of what have you made to that, just the season on a whole, and also the points deduction and things like that? You never really experienced it, but as a player, it must really unsettle them, knowing that one moment you're 3 points outside the relegation zone, then you're dragged in because you've had a 4 points deduction. And it hasn't been an easy task for the professionals in terms of players.
Yeah, I think it was an ups and downs season, and it's really tough when you sack your manager, and then we all know how tough he is for the fan also, because we really liked him and loved him. But then it's interesting to see what's happened, because sometimes what this happened is because the coach has lost the changing room in a certain way. So I'm not sure if it was the case. But then it's really tough also for Nuno to come in place and with a new team and straight away having some result and put your mark as your style of play that we want to produce. And you have to quick adapt and find the players, understand the type of player that you have, and understand also the group of players that's stuck together. Because when you come to a new changing room, there is a core of players that you don't want to break down, because this is the spirit of the team. So I think it's really tough as a manager and to take a Premier League team like that and to be able to maintain to keep the momentum and keep them in Premier League. So, and on top of that, with the deduction point, I think it's really tough, because we knew that this season is going to be tough for us, and then on top of that, we have this deduction point. But it showed a lot of character for the player to have all those on the shoulder and be able to perform and stay in the Premier League. So credit to them.
Yes, definitely credit to them. And Sam, when we go back to the game yesterday, Chris Wood scores. He always seems to turn up against his former clubs, doesn't he? He did it against Newcastle and he does it against Burnley. But 2 for him yesterday, Sam, and Forest get a VAR decision that also went their way.
Yeah, I know. Who'd have thought? Hey, who'd have thought? It was almost a bit sarcastic cheers from the away end when that decision got made. It's quite funny. So yeah, it's funny that it's once the kind of the pressure's off and the game's kind of the league's decided, that's when we kind of get one, isn't it? So typical. But yeah, no. Chris Wood, I think he's come under a bit of stick recently. He's had a few chances that he probably should have taken, and the expectations for him probably were a bit higher than normal just because he had such a purple patch mid-season. He was scoring for fun, just didn't look like he was going to miss. And yeah, he's had a few chances in the last few weeks where you kind of would have expected him to score. And so I'm really happy for him, especially to go to his, like I say, go to his old club and get a couple of goals. I said to my mate who plays FPL, he had a triple captain left, so I said I'll get Chris Wood in there and get him on triple captain. And as soon as that second goal went in, and he texted me and he was like, "Oh, thank you so much for that." So predicted that one. Because he just loves scoring against his old team. But yeah, no, I'm happy for him. And it's just nice. Like I say, it's just nice to end the season on a positive result, and it's something to kind of move forward with into the next season and build on. And it'd have been a bit disappointing if we went to already relegated Burnley and didn't get a result. And it would have been kind of the season out with a bit of a whimper. But it's a kind of light at the end of the tunnel after this up and down, long and painful season. So yeah, we're there now, and we're all smiles at the end of it.
Yeah, no, exactly, and a summer of I was about to say relaxation, but it probably isn't because it's Forest. Guy, I suppose when you're in the dressing room and the fear of relegation is amongst you, and obviously Forest kind of all but secured it last week because of Luton's result, given the goal difference swing, mathematically confirmed it yesterday.
Yeah.
Almost, how do you find the atmosphere as when you played and almost the pressure that is amongst you? Do you almost rise up to the pressure, or do you try and kind of keep away from it and just focus on the game and almost on the pitch issues as well?
I think it's the pressure comes from different things. It comes from the fact that as a player, you have to understand that sometimes when you get relegated, for instance, there is not the same amount of money, I would say, coming to the club because you're now probably in championship. So therefore, for example, when I play at the time also in France, we knew that when you get relegated, some of people got sacked. So it's a factor that we take on board, and at the same time, you have your own financial problem and stuff like that, because maybe you rent an house there, and then if you get relegated, they cut your salary off. And then, so there is different type of pressure. And on top of that, it's like a battle. You want to show your supporter that, yes, we're gonna handle this type of pressure. But I think it's come with the experience. And then sometimes it's good because you stay in the league. Sometimes, for example, Burnley is not good because they get relegated. But that's an experience they have to learn from it. And next time when they will get back to Premier League, maybe they can handle it better. And the good things for us is that the group of players were able for the last 2 years to cope with this type of pressure. So now it's the matter of, okay, how we can build up from that. Meaning that it's not like, okay, this is the third year in Premier League and now we're in a Premier League team. We won't be relegated, because if I put it a little bit like our time when we reach out the playoffs, we make the playoff twice in a row. And then therefore the following season, I believe that we didn't put the same effort because we were believing that anyway we're going to win games. But it's not working like that. You really need to have the same hunger to win games and not get relegated. And sometimes to understand that now we have to get a step forward and come and try to be a middle team Premier League. And then from that, you build up from that. But the fundamental of the survival has to stay into the team,
Yeah.
I think that's important.
I was going to say it's an interesting point, that, Guy, and I suppose, do you feel like the Premier League gets harder every single year? You look at City winning it 4 times in a row yesterday, and just how difficult the league becomes. The top 3 that came up from the Championship obviously go down, straight back down again. And I suppose for Forest, it's almost just to continue building on that and eventually, as you say, becoming an established Premier League side, really.
Yes, I think it's this. And, for example, if you check the table and then you analyze the last season, you can see Everton is like maybe 15. You can see West Ham last season. I think they were struggling a little bit, but now they're ninth in the Premier League. So you can have a great season and feeling that, let's say, 10th on the Premier League, thinking next season, okay, it's all right, we can catch up, let's say, European qualification. But no, next year is another battle. And that's why the Premier League is so tough, because constantly, season after season, you have to be ready to fight and not take in consideration that, okay, we finish good in the league, that means now we are a really, really good team. No, every season will be a challenge in Premier League. So that's the big difference.
Yeah, definitely. Sam, nice scenes at the end in the away end with the kind of players coming over and celebrating and that bond continuing really. And one that hasn't been there that much with Nuno, but he was almost pushed into the crowd by Gibbs White and Anthony Elanga. Fabrizio Romano reported this morning that Nuno's position was under consideration, but I think that's been kind of reported by the media for a while. I suppose the question is kind of what have you made to Nuno? Do you think we give him this summer? Would you be up for giving him a season? Or if you think a change is right, I guess the change has got to be made pretty quickly, surely.
Yeah, I mean, those scenes at the end were very similar, I thought, to Crystal Palace at the end of last season. Obviously, it was a party atmosphere in the away end. And then you kind of, for the first real time, kind of saw that release of passion from him, which we kind of hadn't seen and we were kind of quite accustomed to with Cooper. And yeah, it was nice to see. And I hope we do keep him, because I think the football that we have played under Nuno has been better than Steve Cooper. I think there's been a clearer game plan, and I think we've been a much more dangerous team. We've scored more goals, we've conceded less, and ultimately we've had more points per game. So it's something I think that at the end of the day, he came in to keep us up, and he's done his job. And now he deserves a summer to get the players that he wants in. He deserves a chance to have that, or build that bond with those players over summer, and have a crack at it his way in the Premier League next season without the whole circus of points deductions, or the AFCON injuries, countless other things that he's had to deal with in his tenure. So yeah, he fully deserves it, and it was nice to kind of see him celebrating with the fans, and it's starting to feel like he's getting more of a connection, because it was always going to be a difficult place to come into. I mean, you come in with a manager who was treated like a legend, and everyone loved him, and it's going to be so difficult to come in and fill those shoes. And he's, like I say, he's had to deal with so much, and I think he's just starting to get that kind of connection with the fans now, and I think it's going to be a positive thing. It was getting over this hurdle of keeping us up, and then it's see what he can do with his squad. So yeah, I don't know. Did you feel that at the end as well, Max? When
Yeah, I was going to say, I felt like it was the first time in a while that the fans almost had that connection. There's a chant about Nuno as well now, and there does seem to be that bond growing, and it is a difficult job. I think Nuno's never going to be Steve Cooper in a way with that passion, but he's also going to be someone that brings his own almost character, I think, to the dressing room and to the club. So yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, whether you stick and twist. In fact, actually, as you look at the stats, you put me quite nicely onto a point, Sam. Under Cooper, Forest played 17 games this season. Under Nuno, at 21. Forest won 6 under Nuno compared to Cooper 3. In terms of games lost, actually, Forest have lost more games under Nuno, weirdly enough, but still won more given the amount we've played. Average per game points, Forest have gone up 1.05 compared to 0.82 before. And goals scored is a big one, 1.52 compared to 1 goal scored per game. So in terms of statistically, Sam, it has almost improved. And like you said, I do think the football is better. It's just whether Forest will keep him. Guy, what's your thoughts on Nuno? You mentioned it at the start of the podcast. It is a difficult job to replace a club favourite, but the stats there show he's done better. Do you think it's time for stability this summer with him staying, or would you be kind of making a change? And I wonder how players feel around constant chopping and changing amongst the dressing room as well.
Yes, I think it's not very easy, and I think we were able to do well with kind of, I would say, the same group of player. And the difficulty is when you bring a new manager, it will want to come with new players, and that's always going to be the matter of how many players we're gonna sell against the player that we're gonna bring in, and that's the difficult part, because if we bring a new manager, he has to adapt just like that regarding the preseason on the group of players, understand how going to play. This group of players could fit my style of play or not, and it's really difficult. And I think Nuno has kind of a record also in Premier League when he's done really well at Wolverhampton and stuff like that. So we need to give him some credit and maybe start to build up from that instead of changing again, bringing a new manager. And we never know, he's going to come with new ideas. And then the time to bring his ideas. And, sometimes when football is also connection between men, between the manager and the players. And then when you've been struggling, and then now you manage to keep this momentum and get safe, and you see the manager get the connection with the fan and the connection with the player, because we celebrate from surviving, this is where you have to build up from that. If a new manager comes right now, he has to find something to create this connection, which is not easy. For example, I come back again with our story with Billy Davies. But when Billy Davies first came at the club, we almost get relegated. We got saved maybe I think 2 days before the season ends. And then from this situation, that built a momentum, a togetherness between players. And then the next season, we wanted to achieve more. And I think they have to, learn from that, keep this, this connection that's been created with the fans and with the player in order to build up from that and hopefully to have better results in Premier League next season. But then if we bring a new manager, we will break this down, and then we have to create something new again, and it could be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, definitely. No, good point. And I think a lot of Forest fans are split 50-50, Guy, and a lot of fans will be calling for stability again. Podcast regular Max sent us this video yesterday from TalkSport HQ with his thoughts on the game. Let's have a listen to Max quickly.
All right, Garibaldi Red. Hope you're all well. Hope you're feeling good after we confirmed our status in the Premier League for a third season. I wasn't there, I was at work, but looking sort of jealously at all of the clips just reminded me of Palace last season, that party atmosphere. Loved the fact, Max, you were dressed as a ref. And just the scenes at the end. And my overwhelming feeling is, after sort of the disappointment of Chelsea last weekend, where I just feel fans deserve, after all we've been through this season, deserved a moment with the players. And I was devastated that we couldn't have it at the City Ground after generally a really good performance. But to see that yesterday, a generally pretty dominant performance against Burnley, to see them off and then have those moments with the fans, I think it's nothing less than we deserve, particularly those travelling. And so, yeah, I hate to delve into it too deep. I think looking forward, it's the big questions over the summer is going to be around what do we do with Morgan Gibbs-White and Murillo? Is it possible to potentially keep one of them? We managed to stave off relegation this season despite a points deduction, but it's something that we're going to have to keep monitoring. The owner cannot keep spending in the way that he has, and we need to have a strategy that is less scattergun, but can bring in some of the talent that we have brought in, the likes of Gibbs-White, the likes of Murillo. And so I think the question is going to be, if we sell them, for how much, and who do we replace them with? Of course, another question is going to be around Nuno. I've said before on the podcast, Max, I don't want to see the change. I just think stability helps. He's got the pedigree in the league. He's had a really difficult hand dealt to him, and I just hope that he's given that time. Those will be the questions, I think, that dominate the Forest conversation over the summer. But for now, what a relief after a tumultuous season. Come on, you Reds.
Good stuff, Max. He is good, isn't he? And he said that, and he said I was dressed as a ref. So I don't know if you saw yesterday, Guy, but a lot of the Forest fans went in fancy dress. We all went as referees. It was a party atmosphere. He mentioned
saw a few Gary Nevilles in there as well.
Yes, there was a few Gary Nevilles. Done lots of Stuart Atwell face masks, shall we say? Sam. Max mentions there about Murillo and Morgan Gibbs-White and whether Forest will kind of keep them. the big question this summer. Murillo this season, in terms of his stats, 77% pass accuracy, which is unbelievable, 1.2 interceptions per game, 5.7 clearances, and he's Forest Player of the Season at just age 21. Just how instrumental has he been for Forest, Sam, and how big of a loss would it be if he decided to, well, if he departed in the summer?
Yeah, I mean, he's just missing that one wonder goal off those stats, isn't he? He came so close a few times. I mean, that one at Palace where he dribbled through the whole team, and then that one at Spurs, which would have been absolutely outrageous for about 70 yards. But no, he's like no one can have a bad word to say about him. He's absolutely fantastic, and unfortunately he's going to go on to probably a very big team and have a very successful career at the very top of the game. That's unfortunate for us, but we've just got to sit back and we've enjoyed him this season, and we've just got to kind of deal with that and live with that, and that's the way that football works. It wouldn't be you want those players to come through and have that time with them, and but I can't see him staying, unfortunately. I think just because his age and his potential, he's going to be top of the hit list for so many big teams. So I'd hope he goes. Personally, I just hope he goes somewhere abroad, somewhere like if he goes to Spain or Italy, so just so I don't have to see him play against us, because I think that would break my heart a little bit. But he's been absolutely fantastic, absolute rock at the back, and we're going to have to replace him. I think it's going to be a weird one because he's a very unique defender. I honestly think he could play anywhere on the pitch. And he's going to be a really difficult one to replace. But I think if he does go in summer, I would like to see a more experienced player come in and have Garibaldi kind of come in as the Murillo role. I think he showed signs this season where he's there or there and thereabouts. And I think when he's played with Murillo, and they're very similar players. They're quite small for a centre back, but both athletic and good passes of the ball. So I think him with an experienced head around. I mean, I've been looking at some of the potential options in the transfer market, and I think that someone like, I mean, maybe not this person, but Joel Matip is someone that's, I think, end of their contract at Liverpool, and someone that's come in and done it at the top level in the Premier League for a number of seasons now, and is that experienced head, could be the perfect person to put with someone like Garibaldi. And instead of going out and trying to risk it with another young centre back, I think someone like that would be a really true bit of business and could really, really help us sort out our defence, especially from sort of set pieces where we're clearly lacking, and we clearly need to kind of have that experience and sort that out.
Yeah, definitely. Guy, what have you made to Murillo? Because he's just an unbelievable player, and Ryan Yates was talking about him actually the other day on an interview, and he said he's one of the best players he's played with, and even in training, just the passes and he just goes and dribbles, and Ryan Yates just called him incredible. I'd just be interested to see what you've kind of made of him so far at Forest.
Yes, we talked about him I think the last postcard that I've done with you, and he's really a good player. I really like him. He's like, as I said before, he's really calm with the ball. He's got the composure. He's technical. We've seen the dribble abilities when he just run through the player with the ball and try to score goals. And I think he's got a huge potential. And I think in the same time, Forest was the best place to be for him, I believe. And eventually, effectively, he will go to another club, not a bigger club. So I believe we are still a big club, but yes, I think it's a really, really great player. I really like him, and I think he's got a huge potential. He's got a really, really huge potential.
Yeah, big player for Forest, and it will be interesting to see whether he does depart. Touching on big players, almost another player that had some interesting scenes at the end with the fans, with Morgan Gibbs White, and obviously there's rumours around him, and Tottenham are rumoured to be interested in him. Again, Guy, I wonder what you kind of think of Morgan, because such an instrumental player for Forest, and you almost feel like he's a bit of a homegrown player, a real leader and a real fighter on the pitch as well.
I think he's got big, huge influence in the way, like, regarding the type of player of Nottingham. When he plays well, the team plays well. And he's got a fighting spirit. He go everywhere. He's got the ball. He try to create. I would have loved to play with a player like that, And I think now, regarding last season, he start to understand that he have to produce more like assists and creating more chances. And the more and more he will get that in his game, he will be an unbelievable player. I think it's just amazing when he's on the pitch. It's like he has to play. He's like the heart of Nottingham. He's the one that dictating the game, and he's just a fantastic player.
Yeah, definitely. And Sam, it's interesting actually, talking about Tottenham being interested in Morgan Gibbs-White, also apparently interested in Callum Hudson-Odoi this morning, who again has become an instrumental player for Forest, and particularly in the last few games, Hudson-Odoi with his trademark goals and just the style he seems to be bringing to the Forest team. Gibbs-White and Hudson-Odoi, two big players that Forest really can't afford to lose this summer either, can they?
Yeah, we need to build on this squad now. I think we've all seen that there's the potential there for a good Premier League squad, and it's all about keeping those kind of core players. I think one of Gibbs-White or Murillo is probably going to go, unfortunately. Just the finances are there for everyone to see. We can't have another situation like this season, and I think Murillo is more replaceable than Gibbs-White is. Gibbs-White is like he said, the heart and soul of that team. He's leads by example with his performances, and as well, like you've heard a lot of the players talk about his leadership off the pitch and how he's kind of grown into that almost captain role alongside Yatesy. So it's one of them where I think he's the one that for me is the most important to keep, because I think there's not many players like him that can do what he does and carries the team on his back with his ability and leadership qualities in such an important position as well. And I think, I'll be honest, I think he should be on the plane to the Euros this year. I think he's shown enough of his quality, and I think he's like second in the assists leaderboard as well. And obviously a team that's not up there in the table. Like you've got the likes of Man City that score 4 goals a game, and he's competing with them. So yeah, I think he's just someone that we can't afford to lose. And if we did, I think we'd really struggle to replace him.
Yeah, he's certainly a big player in the dressing room. Guy, when you played, and particularly at Forest, and you have kind of big players in the dressing room, it must be really almost sad to see them go because of how much they contribute, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch, to that leader, and they know almost how to get the team together in a way.
Yes, for sure. And as I said earlier, and it's like next season, all the players want to build up from that to kind of improve. But if you take out the top players or the best players, it's a little bit hard. It's tough for them emotionally also to know that, okay, he's going to leave. We have to replace him. Who's going to replace him and stuff like that. And he's one of the leader of the team. So when you lose your leader, it's kind of complicated. So I believe that, as you say, Sam, for me, Murillo will be able to replace him, but Morgan will be really complicated. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. A few comments from Phil. Morgan Gibbs-White thrives from the adoration of the fans. His best game was when there was a typho off him. He won't get that at Spurs. Ask Brennan. Martin says, credit where it's due. Nuno did what he was employed to do. Does he deserve a chance next season, or do we look elsewhere? This one from Phil, which says, would be a shame to lose our star players, makes staying in the Premiership harder next season. I hope scouts can find good replacements. That's the big question around recruitment for Forest. Sam wanted to also touch on Anthony Elanga, who maybe gone on almost under the radar a little bit, hasn't featured too much, but an interesting stat I found yesterday that was 6 of Chris Wood's Premier League goals this season have been assisted by Anthony Elanga, which is the most any player has assisted another in the competition this season. So top of the Premier League leaderboard for that. We can shove that in the trophy cabinet this season. but I mean, you look at a player like Anthony Elanga, and then also Callum Hudson-Odoi on the other side, and the link-up play with Chris Wood. We have that. I know Mark loves talking about it when he comes on the podcast, but that cohesion, that's what we need. And I suppose players like Anthony can contribute to that. And it's a nice stat, and it almost shows that kind of link-up play as well.
Yeah, I think it just shows how much of a threat he is. I mean, I don't know about you, Max, but when when I go to games and I don't see him starting, I'm like, oh, for God's sake, because he's got that in him to just create. I mean, yesterday it wasn't his best performance, but all he has to do is take one man on, beat him, cut it to the byline, and then put it in the box. And he's one of the only players that in our squad that can do that. Hudson-Odoi is fantastic at what he does, and I think those two complement each other very, very nicely, because Hudson-Odoi is quite a direct and likes to cut inside and have a shot, and Alanga is just an outlet. He's so fast, and he's a player that just excites me to watch. So when I don't see him on the team sheet, I'm a bit like, oh, why are we not starting him? Just because everyone knows what he can do, and he had that spell where at the start of the season where he was scoring goals and creating chances for people. And I know that he's maybe dropped off a little bit towards the end of the season, but he's still so young, and he's still got so much more to improve on. And with the right manager to kind of coach him to that level, I think he's going to be there. So I think we need to start next season with those two as the two wide men, and maybe get someone else in that's going to add competition, because at the moment there isn't any competition really, and I think Guy can probably attest to this. But when there's no one else behind you, the pressure or maybe there is no pressure on you, and you can kind of maybe relax a little bit in your position. Whereas having that someone behind you that's dying to get your shirt, it's going to improve your performances on the pitch, and I think it's only a positive thing to have.
Yeah, definitely. No, nice point. This comment actually to us about asking Guy his views on Sangare and will we see the best of him next season? I suppose that kind of question to you, Guy. What have you made to Ibrahim Sangare? He's been a player that hasn't featured a lot, and for what Forest paid for him, many fans would say a little bit of a disappointment as well.
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed also, because honestly, he's a top player. At least what he's done in the past. In the last season, his previous club was just unbelievable. But it seems that he didn't stick really well to the Premier League, maybe, and maybe also to the type of play. So yes, we pay a lot of money for him, and he's got the potential and the abilities. And now it's down to does he going to stick to the type of play of the manager? And then this is why it's important to know who's going to be the next manager next season, because from that, I think he will be able to know exactly what's the need of the manager at this position, and hopefully we'll be able to give his best and shows his real ability.
Yeah, definitely, and someone that it will be interesting whether he is part of summer plans for Forest. And again, as you say, Guy, that depends on what manager comes through the door. Just quickly then, before we go and before we wrap up, Sam, what have Forest got to do this summer? Easier, it's an easy question to ask and probably a very hard one to answer. But there has to be that high level of recruitment, whatever coach is here, and there almost has to be not a quiet summer, but just a nice, steady, off-the-pitch summer preparing for Forest's third Premier League season in a row.
Yeah, it needs to be a calm, well-thought-through recruitment process this summer. Like Callum said on that video, not a scattergun approach again. We can't afford to do that. We need to. It depends on the outgoings as well. I mean the key positions, like I say, I think we need another winger to kind of add that kind of competition for those places. I think probably a striker, because I think Chris Wood's been fantastic, but I think if we want to push ourselves to the next level, Chris Wood is someone that should be kind of a backup to that striker. And we obviously have a one-knee, but you can't build a team around a man that can only play 15 games a season, unfortunately. And I know it's not his fault that he's in this position, because we love him and he's fantastic. He's a fantastic player, but he's just so injury prone, unfortunately. And then obviously the two major positions are if Morgan and Murillo leave. So if Morgan wants to go, which would be a really hard thing, I'd maybe look at some of the players maybe that have just gone down, like Gustavo Harmer potentially. Another name maybe to mention is Sammy Smodics for Blackburn. I think he got 27 goals and Golden Boot from attacking midfield. So I think he's someone that will probably be in the Premier League next season, but I don't know who it'll be for. But like I say, whoever comes in has got big big boots to fill if either of those two leave. So yeah, the recruitment's got to be very smart, very considered, and I know we've got the guy from Benfica now. Is that right? The scout.
Yeah.
So hopefully he brings a fresh approach on things, and yeah, we'll make some good signings and onwards and upwards.
Yes, exactly. George Sirios was also at the game yesterday in the director's box next to Miltiadis Marinakis. So he's been involved again, someone that was involved with Forest recruitment originally in the Championship and the first season, and then is now back at the club advising. So kind of a positive move, actually, in terms of that. Guy, I just wonder as well, as a player, what the summer is like, and kind of, I mean, they'll be all on maybe their holidays next week, as will I be probably, just relaxing and enjoying some downtime. But then when you get back to pre-season, the hard work surely starts then, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I believe that the pre-season, like, it will be between vacation and already pre-season, because before they come back to the pre-season, they have to understand the weaknesses that they had physically or mentally that they need to work on in order to come back fully ready at the pre-season. So, it's almost never ends. So they will go in vacation for a few weeks, but I think probably like 1 or 2 weeks or 10 days before the pre-season, they're probably going to start working already to be able to face the next season.
And I was also going to quickly ask Guy, while we've got you, is just about the City Ground. There's been a lot of talk about Forest moving from that and the council being difficult, and then the owners looking at other sites. What do you think, as someone that's played at the City Ground and still visits regularly with the atmosphere? What's your kind of stance on almost staying at the ground?
For me, it's like I don't really like it, to be honest. It's like, for example, we have the same thing in Paris Saint-Germain, that try to own the stadium, but the mayor of the city doesn't want to, so they try to go to another place. And there is so much history with the club, and then I would rather build up a new stadium around, like with the City Ground, like make some renovation. But changing is is really complicated. You have to create a new old story with this stadium. We could be good, but for me, with the history of this football club, you have to keep the City Ground. It won't be the same. For me, it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And that City Ground atmosphere is really undefeated. Right, that does us nicely for our final main episode after the season. But don't worry, we're not going anywhere in the summer. Guy, Sam, thank you very much. Guy, really appreciate your time. And Guy, in fact, just quickly tell us what you're up to, because I know you kind of do a lot of stuff with the muscle rehabilitation program as well.
Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of, so I've got my own company with a rehabilitation products. So it helps any type of, individual that's struggling with increasing muscle mass. So it could be rehabilitation related to muscle loss, related to age, or just to strength training. And so we're selling this to football clubs. So actually I have to go to Wolverhampton because they may take a few devices, and I'll actually have also a meeting with the club doctor of Forest, so they may have also different equipment. And now with the Euro and also the Olympic Games, we're supplying different federation of football. So the French Federation of Football, the Belgium one, and some of the team for the Olympic Games. So I keep myself a little bit busy.
Great stuff. Well, we appreciate you taking time to speak to us, and fingers crossed it all goes well as well, Guy. Thank you for all the comments and getting involved with Garibaldi Red podcast this season. It's been an interesting one since taking over, but thank you for the continued support. We will be here throughout the summer. We ain't going anywhere, so do not worry. Just to close, it's been an eventful season for Forest. A 5-0 defeat away at Fulham. Steve Cooper leaves. Nuno comes in. A points deduction of 4 points. We have AFCON players missing. Countless injuries, 18 match-changing decisions, new chairmans, club statements, a huge price in season ticket increase, and a points deduction appeal rejected. And that is just a small amount of dramas this season. But one thing is for sure, Forest will be playing Premier League football next season. We will see you next time. Sam, Guy, thank you. Come on, you Reds.